Hey there, and welcome back to the OBM Show, where we highlight strategic OBMs building businesses that are smart, sustainable, and grounded in real client work. So today I'm joined by the lovely Beth Johnson, founder of Firefly Consulting Group, where she supports growing businesses with strategic mapping, project management, and hiring systems that bring structure and sanity to the back end. So Beth came into OBM school, delivering high level work, well, like a lot of OBMs, she wasn't always positioned that way. Her clients saw her as just a VA, even when she was managing launches, leading hiring projects, and doing strategic level work behind the scenes. So, in this conversation, we talk about how she shifted the way she talks about her business, how she moved into a hybrid model of retainer and project based clients, and why working 3.5 days a week feels more sustainable and more powerful than trying to do it all. And if you're listening and wondering if OBM work is the next step for you, OBM Week is coming up the week of April 27th. It's our free behind the scenes training series that shows you exactly what this role looks like and how to step into it.
Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I am so fantastic. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, Beth, and I'm really, really excited to talk about what your business looks like and, you know, how you really got started in this space to begin with. So I'd love to hear your story.
Well, it started off, so my main background is in construction project management. So years and years ago, I was in construction, one of the fewer women in trades at the time. And then obviously we had the housing crash and started having babies and children, and life just happens. And then I went into more of an admin part time work. And then my husband got a job and we moved halfway across the country, needed a job. And I'm like, what can I do with kids? So I went back to school, literally back to school, and was teaching. In that time frame, COVID hit. And we learned real quick how to use Zoom as we all know it today, where it's just part of our lifestyle. But at the time, it wasn't. Everyone was fumbling and doing this. And my counterpart goes, I don't think we can do this. And I said, yes, we can do this. We will do this. And we did it for about 6 to 8 weeks. We got voluntold to do it again for another year. And we taught around 18 kids just like this all day for
All
9 months. We had breaks, we had fun, we had all that kind of stuff. But that kinda lead us into, like, she got an opportunity she couldn't pass up. I was like, "I can do this online. I can, like, help project management and all that kind of thing." So I took it and ran with it and started doing BA work at the time and quickly realized, this is not for me. I'm more of a strategic OBM, and that's how I found you. So that's how I got started.
So
So it's
I
been
love
great.
that because I think for a lot of us, it does, the OBM idea is sort of born out of necessity, out of having a really strong why. You've got little kids at home and, the corporate gig isn't working, or I mean, the teaching position even isn't working like it used to. So once you made that decision, I mean, how much longer was it really after that, maybe until you found OBM school or until you started to kind of develop a business that you knew would carry you through life?
I would say it was about 2.5 years, but you were always on my radar. I'm like, you always came up. I was kind of just poking around. I was like, "Mm, am I,
Good enough. I prayed it.
I thought, am I good enough for that?" So when you're yourself, when you're like, am I confident about this? Once I realized, hey, I can do this. And the confidence started coming back and working with you and knowing, who we were in groups were with, it was easy where I felt like I can do this all the time for people and I know how to grow it. I know how to expand it. And that's how it kind of came to life. And, the business has evolved. I mean, I was, just a VA and now I kind of do more OBM and consulting work. So it's not so much just a general VA anymore. That's where I kinda help find those people to do that stuff. So,
Yeah,
paying it
you're
forward.
I do know you're big on hiring. So
Yes.
how have you structured your services between the retainers, the strategic mapping stuff that you do and project work. Who are you primarily working with now?
Well, I'm working with trades and women in the trades
Mhm.
and women in general because
Contractors, like what kinds of trades? Like all the trades?
like anything like in construction, HVAC, plumbing, mechanical, those type of businesses, I know how it is to build a home from the ground up, walk through all of that, how to plan for that. Because looking at those businesses, they need that structure of strategic mapping and
Sure.
OBM, just kind of being the eyes above the forest and just helping them guide them through their businesses. So they're always kind of messy. They don't realize how messy they are until they go, "Oh my goodness, I really need some help. I didn't know I was this bad." And, that's how I kind of structure it. Not everyone sees it the same way as I do, but I'm just literally here to help. My goal in life is just to help those type of people. I think it's just a valuable thing, and especially women because they're so super women, right? And when I went into the trades, there were not a lot of women. And now there's just so many women that own roofing companies, HVAC companies, plumbing, and they're just trying to do it all. And maybe they're a one man show or they have a small team, but maybe they can do it more efficiently, effectively.
What are some of the things that you bring to the table for these quote unquote offline clients, right? Because they're not necessarily tech savvy.
Well, I just look to try to bridge the gap. Like they need someone to kind of, like you said, help with automations. I just listen to the key words of like, I'm drowning. I don't know how to do this. I don't do it well. I can't hire people well. Maybe they need to hire a office staff, right? Well, they don't want someone just to come for 6 months and then turn and burn and go, right?
Mhm.
So you build a funnel where like they have a questionnaire. They answer these questions and we kind of just you know, kind of weed them out and see if they are a good fit for them. Like, what's your mission? What's your vision? What's your values? What do you want out of someone? Those are the things I find out first. And then we kind of go deeper dive and hire them, right? For their business. And like with the OBM experience, like what are your KPIs? What are the metrics are you trying to figure out? What are you trying to accomplish? Let's put something together like who can do what and when can they do it? So like using the tools of like Notion, ClickUp, a project management tool of their choice. Maybe they have something in there in the construction world that they are comfortable with because we don't want to put them in anything that they don't feel comfortable
Right.
in. So
You find
I
that you mentioned something earlier in this conversation that I kind of want to touch on, and because it sort of struck a chord in me. And you mentioned that when you saw, my videos or kind of adverts about OBM school, you felt like you weren't good enough. And I got to call you out on it because I'm like, really? I find that shocking, and I wanna sort of speak to anybody who's maybe listening to this podcast or watching our interview on YouTube, and that same, limiting belief internal dialogue is going on in their mind. Where do you think that came from? And what are because obviously you took the plunge and you joined our accreditation program and you haven't looked back and you've had tons of success. Like, why do you think you felt that way? I mean, especially because you had a little bit of, a little bit, you had a lot of VA experience. It wasn't like you were completely new or, couldn't identify transferable skills. Like I feel like you're a pretty confident person, Beth. Like what the heck?
Well, I know, but you always get into your own head.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that confidence. Like you're like, well, I was in a different line of work, teaching, right? Where I was confident with little ones, but it had been a while since I had been talking to adults. And, things in your past, they kind of ruffle feathers and you're like, am I good enough for this? And personally, I had to get over that and figure like, okay, I can do this. I can speak to people. I know how I can help people. So I kind of just flipped the switch personally.
Mm.
And then when I started having more confidence, I was like, I can start talk to people again. So I mean, I think it's just when you are raising your children at the time, you just think you kind of get lost in that way and I say any woman can can do it. If you're on that cusp or you think I want to do this, but I'm not good enough. You are good enough. And you need to have that confidence in yourself. And, that's why we try to help each other as, the OBM world is saying, go to Sarah. She'll help you. She's got this licked. She's
Right,
got
go
it
to
down.
share in the community because our community, and I speak with your accountability group because, we're still in the alumni or momentum or other continuity programs inside of OBM school. But you have nice network of OBMs from our community, from the accreditation that
Mhm.
will forever be like a pod for all of eternity, it feels like.
I know that I have a huge networking of people that can do OBM work beyond what I can do. Maybe someone can do an area better than I can. I'm going to lean in on them and say, "Hey, this is a referral for you. Take it." I'm good with it. And that's where, there's no shame in the game to saying, this doesn't work for me. I'm going to pass it on, but I want someone to have that opportunity. And I just think having those people that you network and you go through school with, those are your best assets, and don't discount them
Sure.
because everyone has their superpower. And so my superpower is just networking and connecting people together. So
It really is.
I've just found that.
You are a great networker, and you've sort of found that as you've grown as an entrepreneur in that way, and I think that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. We just got off of a co-working session for and when we do the project implementation for accreditation, and we were doing just a bit of Q&A, and it was exactly like what you mentioned. One particular OBM is a real AI superstar. Like, she has an IT background, she's just a techie person, and she was just asking some questions about due diligence that she's doing for a client that his whole business is like AI. He creates his YouTube channel, his videos, like his whole business model is uh, on the cusp and leveraging AI. And I could tell that people on the call were like getting uncomfortable because this OBM is clearly very tech savvy. And again, I think it just really highlights the fact that we are a resource in and of itself.
Mhm.
OBM school, our community, what we all bring to the table, we all have these natural strengths. And it reminds me of what you said too about coming back, sort of this touchstone to your contracting background, because I know that those are great clients. I mean, no question in my mind. But is it like, what is that? How weird is that? Like, does that feel like seriously, like really that here I am again, round, here we go round again?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I always feel like I kinda circle back to him. I'm like, when I was, like, thinking, "Who is my ICA?" Right? And I was, like, kinda cherry picking, and then I'm like, "Wait a minute. I know these people. They're my they're the people I can, like, talk to, and I can be, like, 1 minute talking to them a certain way, and then if they have a client, I can talk to them a certain way."
Mm.
And it's just like that chameleon. Is that right?
What about
To be
Syrian? How you were talking about how when you're a teacher with little kids and you're a mom with little kids, like you get so used to like only talking to little people and kids. And then when you start to talk to adults or go back into that, and I know you do a lot of strategic planning, a lot of sessions like that with your clients and projects like that. So interesting because you're having to morph chameleon-esque, yes, but you're going back to something that you used to do all the time and were quite great at. And I think that this is such an important point because as service support professionals, I don't care what you do, if you're stepping into entrepreneurship, you will find every way in the book to make it more difficult on yourself. So, like, what would you tell, the younger Beth self, besides don't reinvent the wheel?
I mean, I think that I would probably say just be who you are, because when you have your authentic self come out, people rely on you, they trust you, they're willing to come to you and open up with no problems. If you try to like I know that the thing is like you can fake it till you make it. That's great. It works to a certain point, but when you're just honest and truthful and be just like I said, authentic, the world is your oyster. It truly is, and doors open for you like you wouldn't believe. and they have for me. So, I mean, so I just tell people, "Don't be afraid. Just be yourself."
I love that. It's true. Don't be afraid. Just be yourself and be your authentic self because that will either attract your ideal client or repel the person who isn't really on that same wavelength as you. And because as OBMs, we are partners with our client. Like I was saying earlier today in one of our calls, I was talking about how, I don't need to be best friends with my clients, certainly. I don't have a lot of, just my close circle of friends. I don't need to be best friends with everybody, but I need to be able to like shoot the shit with my client. I need to be able to like be myself around my client, my professional self, but myself, my authentic self, my authentic professional self. I'm not going to be dropping probably as many F bombs as I normally would. I'm going to try to kind of be more professional there. But I mean, so what you're saying is just such an important point that I really want to highlight. And it pays to be true to you. And when you look at and you really do take stock of your transferable skills and maybe, industries that you've had experience in, like, do you need to be working with contractors for the rest of your life because you started that way? Certainly not. But it is a shoe in to a position where you feel comfortable enough to start to build the confidence again so that when you find this random client from this random field that you've never worked in and it's very,
Mhm.
intimidating, but also refreshing and exciting and new. That's what I really love about being an OBM is that I can change things up whenever I want. Like you know me, I'm like, I don't have a ideal client avatar. I mean, partly because we have the agency and you know, we're matchmaking OBMs to their clients. I don't need to do that. Yeah, we have our matchmaking program.
And I think that, like, you to that point, I mean, like, you just when you are when yourself, you would be surprised on how many doors open. Like, the
100%.
doors that have opened up, and I always tell people, "Say yes." If you're afraid, just say yes because you never know what's going I always put a maybe because when you put a hard no, that door's kinda closed. But if you say, let me think about this. Give me a little bit and let me just kinda evaluate things." It gives you an opportunity to see if it's the right thing for you. And I feel like that's given me opportunities to do things outside of what I would normally do. So I always say just keep an open mind when you want, be the OBM that you want to be and say yes to opportunities, to be partnerships, like to what you said. You want to be a partner with people and be yourself. I'm okay with saying the F bombs sometimes.
I know you are.
Oh yeah, you've experienced that.
Sure. So you just got back from a Disney excursion, am I right?
Oh yes. Oh
And
yes.
and I know that you already are very deliberate in working only 3.5 days a week, which I love because I take off Wednesdays and I do also really try to uphold boundaries around my time. So you took some time off. You're very, very deliberate about the time you work. Can you share more about how you've been able to work that in? Maybe you have some, secrets you can share or words of
Well, I just kind of block my time. So I'm very upfront.
why. No, I blocked my door.
Fine, I can. I just kind of like, I'm very upfront and saying, here's the days that I work and you can reach out to me. I will make exceptions to the rule just because some of my clients, they they rely on me to run meetings and talk, facilitate things. And I'm helping making decisions on on their behalf. So I'll make exceptions to the rule, but I'm really try to be boundary based, like, hey, Fridays are a no fly zone. I'm not going to work afternoon for you at 3 o'clock. I think that's just disrespectful. That's my time. That might be my time to go see my kids that are in college or hang out with my husband that's coming home from a work trip. So I try to just be very intentional with that. And I'll put it on my calendar. I put that I'm busy. I'll share my calendar with the clients just so that if they need to book a time with me,
Mhm.
you know, these are the times you can meet with me.
Right. That's
But
good.
there are some people that I do, like, open that up a little bit. I'm a little bit more free, but I give them well in advance notice, "Hey, I'm not gonna be around, just so you know. Don't be afraid if I don't answer my phone call."
Right.
And
Yeah.
I had that happen last week. I
Yeah.
said, "Click, not
Okay.
answering it."
So share more about that example. What happened and how did you reinforce the boundaries?
I l I will say I love the new iPhone feature where, like, I can scan them and see if it's someone that I want to talk to or I need to talk to. And unfortunately, with this particular person, I'm like, "This can hold. I'm not gonna it's not an emergency. I know the house isn't burning down." So I just said, "Can I call you back on Monday? I'll talk to you then." And they're like, "Great, perfect."
Yeah.
Because I think if you give access to people whenever you're available and 8 o'clock at night, whatever it may be on your time frame, they think that they can take advantage of it any time. But
Mm,
if you set those boundaries right up front, they know that they can't cross them and you just won't break them.
mm.
So one of the particular people, he'll call me and I'll say, "I can't talk right now. Can I talk to you on Monday or can I talk to you tomorrow?" And he respects that. And I think it's just a respect issue just for you, your family, and
So when you went on this trip, did you have to put measures in place beforehand? Like, did you brief your clients? Did you email them? What did you tell them before you left?
I it was a long weekend. I just preface it in beforehand. "Hey, I won't be around. Here's my dates." I kind of just inform them. I get everything set up. If you need anything, we
Yeah.
can touch base. But like I had meetings last week to just really get us set up for those couple days that I was gone.
This is so important because I think it's a huge question that always comes up in our community is like, I want to take a vacation or I'm planning to take time off. How do I prepare a client's business so that I can go away without worrying that things are going to break or things are going to burn down?
I think that you have to have time management in your structure. Plan ahead. I'm a planner. I usually plan about a month in advance. I make sure that everything is set up and, it may not be perfect, but at least there's things in place before I go out of town. My suggestion for those new OBMs or someone that's new, try to set some time. Summers are not going to be your jam. Make sure that you kind of have that set in stone in advance. So then you're not taking new clients on at that time. You're going to leave them hanging out to dry saying, "Hey, by the way, I can't really meet half those times,"
Mm,
just because you don't want to let them down. And I always just kind of, like I said, I always plan ahead, usually 3, 4 weeks in advance. And I kind of have a calendar off to my side. No one can see it, but I know everything that is happening. I let everyone know, "Hey, you can reach me before this time and I'll take care of it when I get back." And they're pretty, they're pretty respectful of that.
mm.
They don't have a problem with that.
So, I hear you saying, obviously, consider not taking on new clients in the summertime if you're planning on taking a huge chunk of August off, like I do, like many of us do.
So,
But like, let's say, you want to take a 2-week holiday and, so you plan in advance and something happens. So how do you plan in advance? Like, is there ever a scenario where you bring on support to man the fort while you're gone?
yes. I mean, like, there's always going to, like when I can say, "Hey, I'll get someone in my place. I'll have someone like, 'Hey, XYZ is going to step in here. They are proficient in what I do. I'm happy to send them information and they can be your go-to for while I'm gone.'"
Mhm.
And then, usually they're already set up for success, the client is, and this person is just my backup. They will kind of answer things, make sure that things are running, automations or, meetings or launches or something that might come around. But for the most part, and I have direct connection with that person that might be on my team, or if I'm working on a team, like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'll check in and, spend a couple, like maybe 45 minutes, just make sure that everything's good. "Do you need anything?" And I'll touch base. But for the most part, it's pretty easy. But you have to have those systems. You have to have things in place to make sure that everything's going to run smoothly. Just communication, big thing. Just communicate with your clients, communicate with your team, and then you shouldn't have any
Yeah,
problems.
just don't wait until the last minute to tell your client you're taking vacation and so is filling in. But again, I think you said it earlier, but I always say hashtag no small babies were harmed, and fortunately, many of our clients are things can wait and nothing is really, even though the client might feel that it is urgent or chaotic, it can wait. So, there is some long-term benefit for the client by having happy team members and a very cohesive team for sure. And I would be a pretty big red flag for me if a client was like, "Oh no, you can't do this or you can't take time off, because you said you signed this retainer with me." Well, I'm either going to bring in somebody to support me so that the work continues, or I've front loaded or back loaded more work to account for my 2 weeks off. And the other piece is, a lot of the times our team members have other team members. So maybe the VA steps on and helps a little bit. Find that the thing I like most, and I know my team is like this, like when somebody goes away, the rest of the team is always sort of happy to show up and help them so that they get that same treatment when they want to go away on holidays. We're just all human. And I think that sometimes as OBMs and as service support professionals, we want everything to be perfect and we want the client to have this perfect view of us. We don't want them to get disappointed, but you still need to be you and you still need to have a work-life balance.
Well, and I think you need to, us as moms and women and
Especially.
owners, we need to recharge our batteries too. Because when your battery is recharged properly, you 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 push through. You're a better human. And I think that's really important for everyone to remember is like take the time off because you'll burn out. You will burn out.
Mhm.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I've seen it with a lot of people and it's really, really sad.
Mhm. And so aside from going and taking holidays, what are other maybe things that you've done or you've seen other people done to like mitigate the inevitable burnout?
I think like you take first off, always take a lunch.
It's like
Always take
so
a lunch
so true, yes. Or make sure you eat lunch
or you eat lunch.
and
I
be
think that you have to accept like give yourself a half hour. I mean, I look at myself as like workout is really important for me.
mhm.
Is so I work out 3 days a week. I go to the gym. I go to that. That is my time. If someone calls me, I'm going to say, you're interrupting my gym time.
I'm not gonna
And I've actually told that to
even
someone.
tell you that because I'm not gonna even I'm gonna
And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, sorry. Can I call you back? Because you're in my gym time. And he goes, yeah, well, 100%. I'm like, yeah. So those are my times, make sure you set a time for yourself to walk away. If it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or whatever the time is, even maybe 2:30 in the afternoon, it's okay. I cherish the time with my kids. So, like, I have a daughter who likes to get her nails done. I'm going to make sure that I spend that time with her
That's true.
because those are times you just cannot get back. And
Yeah.
life is too short. Just make sure you structure your time in your business the way you want it to run and just be communicative with the people that are involved, no matter if it's a VA or your OBM or your clients or other partnerships that you have. I feel like communication is key. And if you don't have that, it kind of goes in the crapper. I don't
Mhm.
want to say shitter. Say that?
You can say it.
Listen.
Yeah. So I love it because I feel like your why is sort of shining through. I know it's about our kids and having easing the guilt also and being available and kind of being a lot of different things. And, you have definitely demonstrated that you are an exceptional OBM. And I would just love to hear, maybe some words that you would have said to your younger Beth self who is maybe considering stepping into accreditation or making the shift to OBM. And, now that you're kind of on the other side and you have boundaries, you are being very choosy on who you work with, and you're not saying yes to everything that comes your way. You have, dare I say, more standards about the client and yourself in this situation. How do you sort of look back and how do you kind of put that into words for yourself?
I would just say, if I could talk to my younger self, I would say, believe in yourself. Don't be afraid. You're going to have those days where you're going to mess up. You're not perfect. Stop trying to be perfect because that's not who everybody is in life. I think it's very important just to be who you are
Mhm.
and strip away the perfection because life isn't perfect. You are going to have a roller coaster of a ride. There are going to be days that are going to be up, and then there's going to be days that are going to be down.
Mhm.
And it's pushing yourself out of those downs to get you back up that mountain.
Sure.
And I think it's really important, especially today with social media. Everyone just thinks it's a perfect world. But let me tell you, half those people behind there are, you know, before they went live, their hair was on fire. They probably had toilet paper stuck to their shoe and their kid was pulling on their shirt, and but they make it look perfect. It's just sometimes people paint a perfect picture, but it's not always pretty.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I just say, just go for it. Just be who you are and have the confidence.
Yep.
Confidence is, and it's hard. I get it. I get it. Confidence is not easy. I don't even have it sometimes. Now that's where I say you fake it till you make it. Boo.
Well, I mean, confidence comes from doing. And I think when you started to speak about how, going back to working with contractors and some of those more trade industry, it's, because you have already the confidence because you've been in that industry. I think that's just an incredible, wonderful thing to kind of mention. And, I think it's definitely going to resonate with people to know that you don't have to be perfect and nobody is. And your clients currently are not perfect. We love
Well, and I think too, it's when you find those group of people, like those cohort people or your pod, lean in on them.
Mhm.
They might have experiences or situations or scenarios that they can help guide you through. I know going through the OBM process, we had a great group of people that would be like, I'm running into this. I don't know what to do. How, and then you would get maybe two or three different opinions, but at least it would help you navigate what you're going through
Mm,
just from that scenario.
yeah, it
So I think
comes a
you just
long
have to
way.
lean in on your own. Yeah.
Yeah, lean in and the support, having support. It's interesting that you bring this up because, I always myself identify as being almost like ironically lone wolfish, like I think just as we get older, your friend groups get smaller, we make less friends in adulthood. But what I have seen from our accreditation program and our cohorts and our pods and just the vibe in and of itself is that we do need these connections and we do need these sounding boards. And when you're getting, three different quote unquote opinions about maybe a situation happening with your client, what it does is it gives you perspective and it gives you an opportunity to speak and walk through something that in your mind would go around and around and around and around. But now when you're sort of saying it out loud and you're actually hearing yourself say it and you're seeing the expressions on the faces of your pod members and you're like, okay, wait a second. Community is really important when you're building something as big as a business. And that is why, I mentioned already at the beginning of the episode, but again, OBM week is coming up. It's the week of April 27th. Beth, did you take part in one of our OBM weeks?
I did.
Yes.
I did. And that was the one that's how it got me
Mm,
because I went to 1 week. It was a couple years ago. I just went. I was probably vocal at that time too
yeah.
because I was ready.
Yeah.
And I I jumped in
Yeah.
and I was so excited to be part of the accreditation
Yeah.
because it built my confidence on what I already knew, but it just gave me more tools to be better at what I could do. So,
Yeah.
and I still look at all my stuff. I still have it all, and I'm grateful. I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to do this
Mm.
and learn and get a lot of perspective on how to be an OBM.
Love that. Well, Beth, it has been such a pleasure speaking to you because Beth's story is such a strong reminder that growth doesn't have to mean more. It can mean clearer, more confident. She's not trying to build a huge team or take on more than she can handle. She's focused on doing high impact work for the right clients, working a schedule that fits her life and being seen for what she truly brings to the table. And that is really the power of accreditation. It gives you the language, the tools, and the confidence to stand in the value that you're already delivering. And if you are ready to get accredited or you're OBM curious, you can join us for OBM week. We start April 27th. You can sign up at obmschool.com/OBM-week. And if you're ready to get accredited and step fully into the role, you can learn more about our OBM certification at obmaccreditation.com. We're going to include all of Beth's links in the show notes and in the video description so you can be sure to connect with her. And definitely, if you are looking for an online business manager, until next time, keep leading, keep simplifying, and keep building the business behind the business.